That's kind of curious. Let's try this again. Sorry. 1 second. I'm trying to do a couple birds with one stone. There we go. Okay. Ashe, my energetic beings, and as always, blessings to you. Tonya D here, holistic shamedium and subtle energy surgeon. What does that look like? Well, timelines, right? Got to climb into the timelines of God, universe, and whatever else is going on. It's totally cosmic. Best way to describe that. However, if you're ready to change your stars and navigate your intuitive gifts and live your life with purpose, join me on Sundays as I explore. This Sunday, I'm going to explore climbing into your skin. But be sure to take my intuitive quiz, Change Your Stars. Before you join me, I'm just going to share different insights into intuitive gifts and what that looks like, because we all have them. It's just the corridor of what we tune into. But again, like I said, this Sunday, I'm going to be tuning into climbing into your skin. It's more absolutely about the heart, or becoming more into your heart space, or just staying more intuitive, I guess, in a way, and what that looks like. But today I want to explore insight into the last area of the Trinity I've been playing with. It's the second aspect of building our conscious Merkaba, our inner and our outer one, I should say. So the first Trinity is our heart space. It's a ritual inner space along with what we feel about it. So it's the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, which I believe we should literally give things up to the ghost, place them on our altar in a way, whether it's in the physical space or spiritual realm or dimensions. It's just something that we actually really need to revisit in our current reality. So if you haven't tuned into those, go ahead and check those out. I'm not going to be real long on Instagram today, so you better go to my YouTube channel and subscribe and ring the bell. It's just Tonya D. However, so just be sure to check those out as well. So now I want to incorporate the last part of our Trinity, which is our mind, and it's time to implement aspects of what we think about it. It's an evaluation that our mind needs to go into. So I'm just assisting you into climbing this ladder of awareness and consciousness. And I want to introduce you to the character of your mind. It's actually your thoughts. So the mind is everything that we've ever experienced or thought in our mind all at once. So it's kind of taking over in a way. It's, what do you think about all of this? That's the human mind. So if you know where it belongs in space, and once you discover where it belongs, those thoughts that come in, then you kind of have a lot of questions about the question in a way. So you're evaluating it inside. So it's this other aspect in our Merkaba, and the spin in this triangle in our mind. So the mind's actually our first responder to any kind of world response. Anything we're creating, attracting, manifesting, you name it. Anything that approaches our beingness. So it's the mind that's going to respond to our outer world and our inner world at the same time, simultaneously. So the mind is literally always trying to show up and show how smart we are, how intuitive we are. Like, it's a congregation. It's also the one playing all the tricks on us. Seriously, it's a trickster. So the mind's even taunting us with different ways of looking at aspects. So it's like our own inner drama club, from happiness to sadness to earth-shattering wonderfulness. So the current reality of Earth is actually just wearing all these masks. And most of all, with all these masks, so this mind is always playing games to distract us from the truth of reality, the spiritual truths. That's why it's always playing games in the cosmic soup bowl. Messages of and for the mind. So it's an aspect of ourself that's actually ruled by Mercury. So it's actually the second fastest planet after the moon. So these two are kind of our feelings and our thoughts. So our thoughts and our intellectual energy are moving very fast. Not as fast as our feelings, but very quick. So it's also attuned to the sign of Gemini, which I'm a Gemini and I cannot talk as fast as I feel sense. And every Gemini on the earth is actually attuned to Mercury and what they think about it. So if you prefer, ask me a question. I live in my mind most of the time. And I know this very personally because I am a sun sign of Gemini. So I'm staying curious. I'm reading all the time. I'm watching people, communicating, sharing ideas, along with worry and doubt sometimes because they're in there. And those are the traps of the mind. And I loves anything that will distract me from doing what needs to be done. It's my mind. And the mind has a whole different mind of its own. That's why it's called the twins. We have these two channels of information. So it's the twins of Gemini. So one twin is kind of the intellectual, logical aspect, practical. And our other twin is like the psychic, intuitive, spirit kind of side of ourselves. So whether you realize it or not, our mind is constantly juggling between psychic impressions, visions, and logical responses, half or if not all of the time. So I'm sure you're getting a great idea of what this looks like. So it's actually our psychic intuitive side that has given us the amazing idea. It's our logical side never thought about it for a second at all, actually, or where the answer even derived or came from. So our logical mind just grabs it on this conscious river stream and runs it over to our psychic intuitive side. So our logical side is one of the ways that God universe actually fuses our energy spirit or spirit with organic life or natural organic beingness. And it allows us to unite or congregate our mind with our body and our spirit. So it's also kind of the one that's going to get us in trouble. I'm a little more sarcastic. It's just the voice in my mind. It's sarcastic. And it's an action person. But we really have two voices that speak as one. But it's really not just two voices. Our mind is actually a representation of all of the voices inside of us. It's our cosmic soup. It's our energy bowl. So you could say that our thoughts or what we think is actually a spiritual house of Congress. It has its own parliament, and it stands between all of these states of consciousness. It's just one of the characters in our cosmic soup inside of us as we climb the pyramid to climb into our skin. So our mind is halfway between this ladder of enlightenment, and it can get in the way, actually, because it's always exchanging all this information between the bottom world, our inner world, which would be, our sacred garden, our heart space, our feelings, and feelings in general, actually, along with the top of our ladder space or the outer field of consciousness. So that means that our heart actually has to go through our mind to get to the other side and vice versa. So we're a constant channeler. So our mind's a filter in a way. And our heart has to go through all of these steps to communicate with the rest of our beingness. It's like a hub in a way, what that looks like. So that's how brainwashing can literally take over a person's life, is through the mind. If you can take over somebody's mind and what they think, then you control the entire wave of consciousness within their state of beingness, above and below the mind. That's why modern media, our government, propaganda, commercial television, and so much more, they aim to distract us within our mind space and manipulate this beingness. It creates an argument within ourselves or even with other people are getting triggered. That's a state of awareness. You have to ask yourself, where does this come from? Even pharmaceutical companies, they try to convince us that we need the drug, that we're going to feel better. So we haven't had that conversation with our feelings or where these diseases come from in the mind, right? So they prescribe drugs that actually disconnect us from our own mind. A lot of people are, I'm proud to say I'm not a pill popper. The thing I'm popping right now is vitamin C, but I always do that. But we do this in society, and we've learned this through time and space centuries, I'm sure, that if you want to control humanity, the mind is actually the place to go. So our mind is a state where our inner world actually meets to have a conversation on what's going on in our outer world. So it's it's our inner village. It's a personal parliament with inside of us. It's our curiosity, and it's just that is the mind. So it's this master of ceremonies. It hosts the entire village of our voices. And it's each representation of our entire world. So you can just think about this to see for yourself. So if your body hurts energetically, in reality, the physical, your mind knows about it first. It's that structure. If you feel sad, your mind actually knows about it first. If you're angry and you want to punch somebody because you're angry, there's an action aspect to you. And your mind actually knows how you want to do this. So if you get this haunting sense that you've been in a space before, deja vu, again, your mind knows about it first. So it's always picking up on all of these messages of this congregation inside of us. And if you bring it into your cosmic soup of characters, it basically says that every body on earth has multiple voices in their head that are talking. Even according to science, every body on earth has a personality disorder, multiple personalities. Every body could be termed crazy because every body has many voices going off in their head. They're all leading to different paths within our cosmic soup. So rarely is a thought from our mind alone. And you might be asking yourself, well, if I have all of these conversations and voices in my head, because I know I do, what is the voice of my mind? Ooh, that's a great question, right? So the voice of our mind is the one that's literally asking the question. So the voice of our mind is the voice listening for and to the answer. So our mind is the part that's asking the questions and listens to those answers. So that's what the focus of Gemini is in awareness. And the reason why the mind is a big interviewer, likes the conversation, is because that's what it does. It associates different messages from all different states of awareness and brings them into an organization, into the village, in order to filter through them. So you could kind of look at Mercury as a lawyer in a way, kind of like an attorney within your congregation. So when your mind tells you you look fat in your jeans, that's really not your mind saying that. What's happening is there's a rebel inside of you taunting your ego that's basically telling you to get along with each other because your heart doesn't want you telling you. It hurts your feel bads, right? That's just my opinion, but that's what the heart does, right? And our mind, maybe it feels scared. Well, there's an emotional aspect of us inside that doesn't feel safe. So we need to shore up our village and our boundaries. And they're not really doing their job to protect you and make you feel safe. That's why a master Buddha or Buddhism teaches us to observe our mind and to listen to the chatter as it flows on by without literally reacting to it. So to observe our voice, the thought, and where it's coming from, rather than being a trigger or reacting to the voice. So just remember that the mind itself has a couple of voices. It's the logical and the intuitive aspect, and it's always having a conversation between those wheels, and it's contrasting all the information and all of the data. So when our mind has a question, it might just ask, hey, who's bringing in these responses that are coming from our mind, and so on and so forth, because it's reactive. So what's curious, the job of the mind is to actually make sense of all of the information and the data coming in. And it's from an observing perspective. It's observing those thoughts rather than pushing them down the river. So that's when you start having, or you actually realize that you're getting intuitive hits, messages, psychic intuition. Messages are literally coming in because they're just popping into your mind without any logical sequence to them. So what does that look like? So it's generally a thought that you didn't ask or you didn't have a question to. It's just a psychic thought. It's information. Like I said earlier, your psychic voice inside of you, it's what we all call our mind's eye, our third eye, what we intuitively sense. That's one of the ones who should be answering most of our questions most of the time. We just turned off that regulator in a way. So without people really noticing when or where it came in from. So, how do you manage all of this congregation that's going in our mind? So there's only one opinion that counts the most, and that is our own inner garden, the character of our heart. Hence why this Sunday is called Climbing Into Your Skin. The voices of our heart should be number one compared to the voices that go on in our head. So that's when our mind actually has to take a time out. Just think of it as putting on a mask and sitting in a corner for a minute. It has to sit there and wait for the opinion of the heart. So that's kind of the only way the mind will ever be settled in its jurisdiction within the heart space. So what does that look like, for instance? So when you hear your voice say that you look chunky in those jeans or you got a muffin top, instead of arguing and getting triggered, that would be your mind saying that. Go ahead into your heart space and say, that didn't make me feel really great. So am I going to let my mind insult my heart? So if you take the message to your heart, you might find that your heart feels really sad that you even said that. So the message actually hurts your inner princess, your village, and your heart doesn't really want to feel that way. So that's when you bring in the executioner, like an urtical, and chop off their head, and you become defensive on the inside. But how do we defend our heart? Well, that's what we got to do. We have to have a conversation with our mind about the heart space. So the mind needs to be mindful of our heart space. So if you say something crude or negative to your heart, it's almost like your inner heart has to say, hey, that hurt my feelings. That conversation is not allowed in my village mind. That offends my bae or my inner huton. Off with your head. So I say that because I've been watching Ertugrul. I think everyone needs to watch that. There's a lot of head slicing going off in that show. Not in a bad way. It's just a lot of cosmic clutter, and it's a great show. So real quick, whatever your mind thinks about something that hurts your heart space, do not, and I say this seriously, absolutely, do not 100% allow it to happen. We all get the get out of jail free card. We get a consciousness pass. We have to upgrade our thinking cycle and our intuitive self and just move on to a new topic. So with that, I'm going to say goodbye to Instagram. I've been on a while. Ashe. So with that, it's just a part of two curious things that came up real quick. So this I thought was interesting because of today. I found this, and I don't know who this girl is, but again, our mind is a tool. So you're not sure who needs a reminder, but here's DC on the day Trump was inaugurated. Sorry, spell check or mouth check. So this is curious. See, this is how our mind forgets things. That was a year ago, I guess. And now we have this one, which, just remember the people who told you we don't need guns and walls have surrounded themselves with guns and walls. So both of those images, I think, are kind of reflective of how our mind segregates two different things within the container of who we are, right? We forget things, especially if we don't want it up on the forefront. So just, putting that out there real quick. But the mind, in my experience, is this aspect inside of us. It's a voice inside of our head that we need to have a conversation with. My mind likes to think about things all the time. I like to stay curious. I like to read. I like to pay attention. So, getting back to manifesting or creating something within your village, in your story, your characters, just a few guidelines is you have to have a conversation with your heart. And if something's hurting your heart space, you have to explore it. If it's appropriate or not in your village, if the information is new, then you kind of have to kind of allow it in and observe it, because you honestly don't want to close off your mind to new information as well, whether it hurts your heart or not. But if it's something you've already thought 1,000 billion times, like a past boyfriend that comes back, the information or the person isn't admissible in your village. So if it's something that comes from your past that's hurt you in the past, you have to make sure you got the lesson, you've cleaned up the cosmic clutter, but you don't let it hurt your heart space, because you've already allowed that thought 1 billion times in your village, and you just can't allow it anymore. You have to protect your container. So if somebody or something else comes in your space and is hurting to your heart, something that's outside of you, where it originated, it's unnatural, say, it really shouldn't be allowed in your village as well. And a lot of times the chatter that goes on in the mind, the arguing that goes on in the mind, the triggers that go in your mind, the mind is a brilliant distraction for all of these. It devises these games to literally keep us away from our ideas and our goals and what's exciting to us. It creates procrastination, stops us from opening up to receiving the light of God universe, or whatever it is you want to bring into your village. It just keeps some argument going off in our mind space, and it keeps people from moving in their life, because this argument keeps going over and over. It's like that broken record. And you've never asked your heart space, hey, do I need to stay here anymore? Because the argument and the trigger, the validation, it's never been settled in the heart. So you wear it like a badge. So it's just a device for this inner dialogue going off in your head. So it's just a technique to ignore our feelings. A lot of people do this and they don't know how to soothe our feelings or manage the feeling, or where the feeling even came from. That's our Jedi Yoda master in a way. So it's literally like people who put their hands up on their ears and they're like, blah, blah, blah. They literally use the mind to drown out any aspect or validate an emotion of what they're feeling. That's just my opinion. I feel like it's giving it up to the ghost, the Holy Ghost. So if I get a bad feeling that hits my mind, then I'm going to distract my inner heart space. It's just kind of a way of numbing up. So a lot of people numb their feelings and their emotions in their mind anyway. I'm just going to do a little checklist on how to better manage our mind, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So if your mind is feeling contaminated, just know whatever it is you're trying to create or manifest, it's not going to move forward in God universe's field if there are doubts in our mind, in our village. So what happens is you're going to manifest the doubts into reality later on. So if your mind or your thoughts ignores any of your heart space, it doesn't matter if it's the ones above it or below it, which I haven't got to the above ones yet in our Trinity, but there's going to have missteps in your manifestation, whatever you're trying to create. So you have to proceed to open up to receive. You have to open and be ready to receive. So it's a virtual vortex, I guess, in a way. So for me, I'm trying to manifest a new bathroom, which my house totally needs. So if I was to apply this to my Merkaba, I have to give everything time and space that leads up to my mind. So I have to kind of review what the bathroom is going to look like in that, create sacred space, I might do a vision board. I might talk about it. I might sleep on leathers. I might create a journal, whatever that looks like. I have to create a container that is safe and guarded. And I have to give time and space to creating that. It's like babies aren't made in a day, right? And a bathroom remodel, I'm sure for me, is going to take a few months. Or say you want to shift your star story and change your life. So you have to imagine what love and filter in that beingness into the physical reality where you literally fall in love with the being that resides within you, and the bathroom for myself, what that's going to look like. So create a vision, like I said, fill into what the tub's going to look like in my new bathroom, dream house, whatever it is. So you kind of have to create this intuitive visionness, and you have to believe that it's totally possible to have whatever it is you want to manifest or create. Your belief has to be right next to you, where you just know, you have zero doubt whatsoever, you deserve, for me, this fabulous bathroom. Next level is what I'm thinking of. And that you find whatever it is that you would like. So obviously mine's going to be a glamorous bathtub, so I can just dive in it through the winters in Utah. So just remember, intuitively, we get our first hit from God Universe. It's kind of a pre-reality boost, bingo. And then comes in what we think about it. So we have all this voices that come in to discuss with our village committee. So for me, it would be if this is what this golden chalice bathroom is going to look like or not. So when all these cosmic voices are heard and they're represented by the channeling that's going on, and you've accepted the village and you've received all the insights and the necessity and the safety and the whole parliament, and you open up, then you're ready to move on to the next phase of this Merkaba that we all have. That's the ability to receive, which is also known as the inner peace in our garden and the justice of that inner peace. And we tend to separate different states of awareness and consciousness in our levels of consciousness, you know. Instead of having a queendom or a fortress of a round table, just know that spiritual dimensions are also different levels of consciousness in our awareness. And each awareness has a consciousness that's aware of its own consciousness. So that just means that every state is conscious and aware of every other conscious state, because there's a lot of voices going on in our head and they each have their own voice. But just know that love truly is the only true power. So not the love of power, the power of love in God Universe, the oneness field. So if you live in your heart space and you are spiritually on earth, then we have spiritualities that are based on this royal highness of richness within our heart space, not the richness of lands and stuff and material things. It's our inner queendomness, and our heart deserves it. So thanks for joining me today. Remember to climb into your skin, or join me Sunday for Climbing Into Your Skin, my Webisode series of Changing Your Stars. As we further investigate the heart space, be sure to like, share, and comment. Thank you, YouTube. And Ashe, and I'll see you on the other side. That's my MO.